Get ready, get ready, get ready. It's the second Wednesday of the month. So excited to have you spending your lunch break with us and joining us here on In-Touch News, and radio. I am here with my second Wednesday co-host, Dr. Shani Davis.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. It's Diabetes Awareness Month, and I'm really excited. Of course, I'm very passionate about diabetes. I'm coming to you from Your Best You Personalized Primary and Diabetes Specialty Care. And for the past 18 plus years of my career, I have focused on, I just pretend to be 20, but I'm really 25.
Yeah, make up your mind.
Okay.
You're 25, I'm 28.
Okay, I was a
That's
child.
Our story, and we're sticking
to it. So I was a child prodigy, and I started everything about 3.5, 5. Okay,
so babies.
So November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and where's our applause? Where is our applause? Yeah. So Diabetes Awareness Month, but also tomorrow is World Diabetes Day. November 14th across the world is World Diabetes Day. We know that diabetes affects minorities at disproportionate rates, and we suffer with complications and impairments to our quality of life for not knowing what to do, how to heal, what new medicines are out there and available to us to keep the disease from progressing. So we're going to talk about all of that today.
Yes. And she covered the gamut. I was looking at a list of terms associated with diabetes, and I was sharing with Dr. Davis that we could do a show just on the terminology.
Just on the terms. Mm.
So November, tomorrow, as she mentioned, World Diabetes Day, November the 14th. November the 14th is a big day. It's a big day for us. And first, it's a very special day on a personal note. So I'm going to wish a happy birthday to my sister, Carolyn Jennings Williams.
Mm-hmm.
She has a birthday on the 14th tomorrow. So if I'm 28, she's younger than I am. So
27 and a half.
And also on tomorrow, we'll talk about it a little later on, we will be celebrating, and let me just do a whoop whoop right now, because in the studio today is DJ CEO. You know, sometimes he's here, sometimes he's not. So thank you to In Touch News, our media sponsor for DSI. Oh, I'm showing this to you all. Here's the camera. DSI Black Pages Showcase, where there will be businesses there that will be celebrating each year that we have been producing the publication. So to our Facebook family, please, and all, you may go to In-Touch News and you can stream live. You can see both Dr. Davis and I. You don't have to worry about whether or not we're straight or if the cell phone devices are leaning.
Yes.
Go to the source. Isn't that right, DJ CEO?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take a moment to first say thank you for last week's show, last month's show. I can't believe it's been a month.
Yeah.
I know what it was. It wasn't a month.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Right. It was our show on the go. And we did the last show ending the month of October as we observed National Breast Cancer Month. Mm-hmm. We were blessed to go and have John So they traveled with us to Dr. Davis's office, Your Best You, and joining us was 7 amazing, and we like to call them breast cancer sheroes.
Sheroes.
So I want to just take a moment to say thank you to all of those that motivated and inspired us to want to do even more in bringing awareness to Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So on the show a month ago, our guest was former City Councilwoman Gwendolyn Gwen Miller. She talked to us about her experiences and her journey, 2-time breast cancer survivor. What we learned on the last show, we had 7 amazing ladies.
Sheroes, survivors.
Sheroes. And a shout out to Joyce Austin. Now, Joyce was unique in that Joyce was a 6-time cancer survivor, breast twice, and as well 4 other times. And she was just recuperating, but wanted to be a part of the show. She is true to my shero. She's like, no, I will be there. She says, I have a story to tell. I want people to know about my experiences, what to look for, what to check for. prepare for it. So shout out to you, Mrs. Joyce Austin, to Carol Lawrence. And if I'm not mistaken, Carol was our longest breast cancer awareness surviving 29 years, right, Dr. Davis? Then we had the president of Sisters Network.
Sisters Network, yeah.
Melissa Vasquez, who had a unique story, but you can go to In Touch News and you can see the whole show in its entirety. But it was very special for those ladies to take the time out. To Jerry Ann Norton, to Aaliyah Watkins, to Linda Best, to Janet Kitchen. We appreciate and thank you all. You seven sheroes rocked for us. We could not have done it without your true stories. And then you made us laugh. You helped us to find some humor in your journey, in your struggle. And for that, we want to say thank you. And I want Dr. Davis to just touch a little bit on what happened to us in her office.
Yes. It was a live show on the go. What was wonderful about that show as well is, like Cheryl said, we had survivors that were 29 years in, and then our youngest survivor was 4 years surviving breast cancer. But if I could just spin it just a little bit, one, everyone didn't come to the table ready to do something about it. There were some that learned about their diagnosis and learned about their risk and what was in their family and said, hey, let's go get this taken care of. Others learned of it. They sort of went into a state, denial, depression, a state, and when they went to deal with it, they were at stage 3, stage 4, and they had to go through some of those stages of loss and grief within themselves, changes in their state of health. So that in itself is something that we have to consider in all chronic diseases, specifically with diabetes as well. Sometimes we learn about our diagnosis of diabetes and we say, hey, I'm going to lay that on the altar for Jesus to deal with, or I'm not going to claim it, or you consider, well, I'm just going to eat better, I'm just going to go exercise, but you're already, maybe 120 pounds. It isn't always about weight. It isn't always, about, your lifestyle. Sometimes those risk factors that we think are modifiable, that we think of in the forefront, isn't the core reason or the primary reason that we're experiencing the changes in our blood sugar. Sometimes it's our family history, and you just can't modify certain risk factors. And you can't change mama, can't change grandmama, and those are risk factors that are not modifiable. Cancer and diabetes have a lot in common, and I want to start talking about the statistics. And with more than 30 million Americans being affected by diabetes, about a quarter of that total is unaware that they have, blood sugar problems. A separate 84 million have pre-diabetes. So obviously they're not a part of that 30 plus million that I indicated before, those pre-diabetes patients. What makes pre-diabetes, or that little bit of sugar, or that almost diabetes state, as it is? One is the risk factors that put us at that state. With everyone that has diabetes, about 90 to 95% have type 2. That's the one type of diabetes that people think of that's associated with weight, that's associated with diet, that's associated with inactivity. And that's what diabetes and cancer have in common. When you, have excess body weight, when there are, lots of preservatives in the diet, when there are, extra things taken in, carcinogens from smoking, actually even smoked foods. Those things put us at higher risk for developing cancers and having our genes mutate or change, and that's what leads to the development of cancer cells in the bodies when those changes in the cells take place. And we talked about that last week. But I want to, move on to this month's segment of diabetes. That 84 million, again, is separate from the patients that have diabetes. Pre-diabetes means that the blood sugar is too high to be considered normal, but not high enough to meet that threshold of diagnosis. Sometimes people say, I have a little bit of sugar. I was told to be in the borderline range. All of those terms are as efficient as being a little bit pregnant, almost pregnant. I like saying that because it resonates with people. People understand, that you're either pregnant or you aren't. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Before you get into the stats, we're hearing terms like what should a patient begin to really think about? Because my thinking is, unlike that almost being pregnant, but if you are borderline, that says you're pretty darn close. Here's an opportunity for you to make some definite changes in your lifestyle so that it ends or it stops there.
I understand, but as a diabetologist, I understand that's an easier pill to swallow. That's easier to accept. That doesn't take people from present understanding of my health to what you trying to say to me, doc. You trying to tell me I got diabetes? I'm not claiming that. I'm in denial about that. Instead of pushing your patient into that range with diabetes is here. Those terms, pre-diabetes, were generated by the standard bearers to replace something called impaired glucose tolerance, or impaired fasting glucose. Those terms really aren't meaningful to people. So pre-diabetes, that's actually how that came about. But I like to, when people come to me and they say, well, I've been told this before, I like to say this means pre-pregnant, almost pregnant, or just a little bit pregnant, because that doesn't make sense to people. Our pancreas, I like to get their attention and make, again, these words meaningful and resonate more with their level of understanding. Our pancreas is our insulin maker, and we can't live without insulin, okay? Most people think that diabetes is a sugar problem. It's actually an insulin deficiency problem. When I start my classes, I like that to be a take-home message that diabetes is not a sugar problem, but an insulin deficiency problem. We can't live without insulin. So does that mean that sugar is bad for us? No, because sugar to the body is like gas to a car. Insulin is the way that sugar gets into our cells to be burned up for energy. So sugar inside of the cells is just like gas in your tank. If you were to like cruise up to the gas tank on fumes, and all the gas in the world is at BP and Shell, you're still going to be on E until you put the gas in the car. And if we can think of insulin as the pump that we use to put the gas in the tank, that sort of, again, resonates better and makes the meaning of insulin and the purpose of insulin more makes sense to people in the body. Yeah.
Break it down. Break it down so that all of us can understand what's being told to them by the primary care specialists. And so when you make those analogies, it resonates with the average person. Insulin deficiency, no gas. Oh, I need some fuel.
That's right. That's right. I need energy. That's right.
You hold that thought.
Indeed.
Because we are going to break for commercial. Thank you so much for joining Let's Talk Business with SJC. My co-host today, Dr. Shani Davis with Your Best You. Back after the break.
So believe we 100 down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking kids state of Florida. Grab a pen of sundown 184-361 Rick. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy stay fine. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361 Rick. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. Legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and giving you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's
Funeral Home, providing the highest quality, professional, and caring service for your family. Call Jeffrey Rose at 813-253-3419. That's 813-253-3419. Or visit him at 301 North Howard Avenue, Tampa, Florida. Ray Williams Funeral Home, for the finest care and quality service.
Hello, I'm Rob Perry with Solar Energy Loan Fund, and we can help you finance your energy needs. If you need a new air conditioner, roof, solar panels, windows, doors, weatherization, having plumbing issues, the Solar Energy Loan Fund can help you with that. Even if your credit isn't the best, we will be able to help you replace that old air conditioner or get that roof replaced. Again, my name is Rob Perry. I'm with Solar Energy Loan Fund. I can be reached at 727-315-3223. Again, that's 727-315-3223. Looking to hear from you.
We are back. One of the things that happens when we're on this show, I tell you, I don't experience it in any other modality of my life. When we come into this studio, the 60 minutes seem like 15 minutes. It seems like we're talking for 5, break, we come back for 5. So enough of that, because the information that Dr. Davis has to share with us, it's worth us taking the time and let her carefully, in her own way, she's very, very good about breaking down to us the importance of caring for our health. So you know the show. Catch the show that's all up in your medical business. She's all about dealing with health. So she's coming back now, and we were starting to talk about terms, pre-diabetes, individuals hearing that, told about the primary care physicians, or they may have to hear the term. Back to Dr. Davis.
So when we're told that we have pre-diabetes or we have borderline blood sugar problems, it just means that the blood sugar, again, has not gone high enough to meet the threshold to be called a person with diabetes, but your blood sugar is higher than normal. The pancreas is our insulin maker, and we can't live without insulin. So let me ask you something, Cheryl.
Sure.
Let's say I have, I'm at a party, and I have like 3 chocolate cakes, and I chase it with a whole gallon of sweet tea, and then I have this pop rock, lollipop. What do you think my blood sugar would do?
First of all, that would never happen to Cheryl.
Shanae either.
She's a pound cake girl, number one.
Oh, stop.
I will bypass that chocolate cake, so it wouldn't be 3 pieces. But girl, I'm thinking after the 3rd item you finished describing, my sugar should be off the charts.
Well, that's what we think. But if you don't have diabetes, you may get wide, okay? You may feel tired after all of that sugar, but your sugar will be normal because your pancreas works. Remember, the pancreas works on demand. That's our insulin maker. Yeah, sugar goes up, insulin comes out. If you eat that, you don't have diabetes. I'm fortunate I don't have diabetes yet. It may be just a yet thing because we both black. That's a risk factor, but I get to those in a bit. But if the blood sugar goes up, the automatic thing happens. We're uniquely designed by God to be healthy and normal. And if the pancreas can, it will. But when we have high blood sugar after a meal, that usually is one of the first indicators that our pancreas is tired, that we are going to diabetes. I hate to say pre-diabetic because, it's like being pre-pregnant. Yeah, so that when we start to see our blood sugars struggling to get back in control, then that's when we need to act. Because in the pre-diabetic stage, which simply means that you've just not made the threshold yet, you're well on your way. But if the blood sugars are high and remaining high after a meal, the same things happen. This means that the inner linings of the blood vessels start to swell, that your body condition that puts you at greatest risk for heart attack and stroke, which is a huge problem. Cardiovascular disease is a big problem, whether it's diabetes, but all of those type changes, they begin as soon as we have prolonged after meal blood sugar elevations. So that's what prediabetes is. What do you see when you have your blood blood levels checked, or you prick your finger with a blood sugar machine. Well, in pre-diabetes, our blood sugar, when we get the blood tests by our healthcare provider, those numbers hang out in between 100 and 125, even if you've had nothing to eat. If you have what's called a hemoglobin A1C test, this is a 3-month test that tells the average of sugars, like your blood sugar report card. That number is between 5.7 and 6.4%. You can't fake that. That's a history. If you eat something today or you don't eat something today, you can't affect that number. If you do a blood sugar test with your finger, you can't really check for prediabetes that way. But if you've been pregnant before and had that glucose tolerance test around, I think it's week like 24 or 28 or something like that, been pregnant in a long time. So that number, if it's 2 hours after you've had the sweet drink that they give you, if that number is between 140 and 199, then that all of those three are indicators of that borderline range, that pre-diabetes range. So again, pre-diabetes in itself means that the blood sugar is not normal, but you've not gone high enough to meet that threshold for a diabetes diagnosis. Great question. Believe it or not, it's what everybody should do. There's no longer a diabetes diet. There's no longer a diabetic workout or things very specific to people with diabetes. We all need a lot of produce in our diet. We all should exercise about 30 minutes a day, about 150 minutes a week. We all need more muscle versus fat. We all should have very good BMIs. Now, caveat on the BMI, you're considered overweight if your BMI, body mass index, by the way, is between 25 and 29. If you're between 30 and 39, you're considered obese. And over, 40 and higher, 40 and, I think 40 to 50 is morbid, and then over 50 is super morbid. But BMI, body mass index, is just a ratio of height versus weight. It doesn't take into account your lean body mass. So the more muscle that you have, really the lower your risk factors. And we want to, keep those things in mind, because we really can check BMI for everybody on the Bucks team, and all of them would be like obese and morbidly obese and things like that, because they got so much muscle. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Don't put too much stock into the BMI. It is just a risk indicator that we as healthcare providers look at to sort of gauge and begin the conversation on risk factors for chronic disease.
That's what I wanted to find out. Then when you're talking about diabetes, one of the things that I've heard people say, and I don't have it in our primary family, but on my dad's side, most of my uncles and aunts are diabetic. They had a lot of diabetic issues. I saw it in my husband's family as well.
I'm not related to him, though, right? But
the thing is, what I'm hearing people say, and all of them pretty much kind of said the same thing. I was having these symptoms, but I just thought it was just something normal. And so when you see everybody kind of thinking along those lines, then how do you differentiate that? How help the person understand? When you are affected by any of those symptoms, you've got to pay attention.
Indeed. It is easy to sort of write off symptoms as, we're here in Florida, and the rest of the country is experiencing this crazy cold front. So I love Florida living, and praise God for living in Florida. But it's hot here, so we're drinking because it's hot outside. So if we're excessively thirsty because the blood sugar is high, it's easy to say it's hot outside. And then we start urinating a lot. Well, we can say we're urinating a lot because we're drinking a lot, right? It's hot outside. It's Florida. We're tired. We're fatigued. Boy, the sun has been beating down on me. It's very easy. My point is, it's very easy to explain away lots of the symptoms associated with high blood sugar. Also, remember, the majority of people with diabetes has type 2. This means that the onset of these symptoms is very slow. It's easy to explain them away, particularly when you're busy. You got stuff to do in your life. Who has time to sit back and think about, oh my gosh, did I go get my health screen? We should. We should. Okay. Let me go back a little bit. Let me talk about those risk factors. There are risk factors that are modifiable and risk factors that are not modifiable. Things that you cannot control. You cannot control your age. If you are over age 45, you are due a screening. Okay, the more mature we are, the older we get, the slower sometimes our pancreas performs. And sometimes we can be at risk just because our pancreas is slowing down. So we want to be mindful of that age is a risk factor. Can't do anything about that. Your family history. If your family has diabetes, there particularly one particular type of diabetes in pregnancy, type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes, you want to make sure that your healthcare provider knows your risk factors so that they can screen accordingly. Ethnicity is a risk factor. So if you are not just black or Hispanic, but if you're Asian, if you're American Indian, those things are really, really important to let your healthcare provider know your lineage because of, again, their genetic risk factors that can't be controlled. And then there is your build. If you hold your weight in the middle, if you have more or less like apple fat, like if you shake like the apple in the fruit of the loom guy, versus a pear where you hold your weight on your hips, that apple fat is a risk factor. That if you hold your weight between your neck and your hips, that's a greater risk factor than if you hold your weight on your hips, or if you have a Coke can shape versus a Coke bottle shape. That's an important risk factor. If you have high cholesterol, particularly in the triglycerides, or low amounts of good cholesterol, that's the HDL, that's a risk factor. If you have a history of gout, okay, that's another metabolic disease that can suggest that you're also in line for type 2 diabetes. If you have irregular periods, if there is a darkening of your skin around your neck or under your arms, under your breasts, in between your fat rolls on your stomach, or in between your thighs, or under your butt, or in that rouge space, or the kind of where you would put blush on your face, or your knuckles and your elbows. If you're seeing a lot of thick dark skin stuff, the thick dark skin in those areas, those are hormonal changes that are associated with insulin resistance or metabolic disease. So those are risk factors. Just losing weight and being more active can help to mitigate some of those, and also reduce your risk for incurring type 2 diabetes. Also, if you have slightly high blood sugar, that pre-diabetic range, that's a risk factor, as well as higher blood pressure. Really, when I say higher, I mean over 135, over 85. Anything higher than that, again, those are risk factors.
When you were first giving out the risk factors, you also mentioned diabetes. Number 2. Well, explain the difference to our radio listening audience between 1 and 2.
I will. You know what? I forgot we're in a very important risk factor. Gestational diabetes, which is diabetes in pregnancy. The delivery of the child also takes away the diabetes. Go figure, right? When there is gestational diabetes, the lifetime risk for the mother to go on to develop type 2 diabetes is 50%. 50%. Reason being is pregnancy is an insulin resistant condition. Okay? If you didn't have that test at 24 or 28 weeks, or your healthcare provider didn't say you had gestational diabetes, how would you know if it could have been there, or possibility? Well, the possibility of such could be there. If your baby weighed more than 9 pounds, that's a sure sign. That is a sure sign. If your children were more than 9 pounds, there were blood sugar issues, during the pregnancy. There were blood sugar issues during the pregnancy. So let me answer your question now. Okay, so good. So with the difference between type 1 and type 2, essentially where there is insulin resistance, a slow onset, some of those risk factors that I talked about, that's type 2. It's the type that's associated with lifestyle more so. Sometimes there can be a complete insulin deficiency, but more often than not, there is a partial insulin deficiency. The pancreas makes some insulin, but not all that the body needs to keep the blood sugar under control. Another phenomenon with type 2 is resistance. That means insulin is there, but it takes more insulin in that person to keep the sugar under control. So when we come back from our break,
Yes.
we're going to talk about type 1.
All right. You heard it from Dr. Shani Davis herself. Your best you. Thank you for joining.
Hi,
And let's talk
Katina.
business
I
with
love
SJC.
you.
Bye-bye.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
This brutal weather that we experience every year in Florida leaves hundreds of residents needing repairs to their property. If your home has been damaged or needs remodeling, leave it to the professionals. Call Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing at 813-238-6197. That's 813-238-6197. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing have been serving the community for 43 years. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing is a proud sponsor of Jazz at Miss Connie's house.
Hi, this is Trina Johnson with Caldwell Banker Real Estate, the real estate agent you've been looking for. If you want top dollar for your home or you're looking to make a purchase, call me at 813-244-6953. Again, 813-244-6953, and let me list your home.
And we are back.
We're back.
Thank you so much for joining Let's Talk Business with SJC. I'm here with Dr. Shani Davis, and she is breaking down statistical data. She's sharing symptoms with us, whether it's pre-diabetes or you actually have been diagnosed with diabetes. It's something that we wanted to make sure that she had enough time to cover the subject, cover the matter completely. So we're going to turn the microphone back over to her so that she can help all of us, pre or not.
Okay, so when we left you before the break, we had summarized what type 2 diabetes is. It is an insulin-resistant phenomenon where the pancreas may not be completely deficient of its insulin-making power, that there is some capacity to make insulin, but your body's just unable to make all that your body needs. But with type 1 is an autoimmune phenomenon. So you know what autoimmune means?
Auto.
Self, immune system. This is like your body's defense. It's like your body's army, your body's defense. So the immune system is supposed to defend the body against things that are foreign to you. You get a bacteria, you get some strange pollen that comes your way. Your immune system just kind of kicks into gear, protects you against those things that are not you. And the immune system does that by creating antibodies, anti-U's. Okay, so anything that's not of you, your body makes an antibody towards it, an anti-U, it tags it, and then that's how your white blood cells and other products of your immune system know to go and attack that thing that is not you. In type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune phenomenon, your body gets confused. It's usually triggered by like a virus or a significant event or some stress or some surgery or something. And the body gets confused and it starts to make antibodies towards things that are yours. Autoimmune conditions beget other autoimmune conditions, and autoimmune conditions run in families. So that means that if grandma had rheumatoid arthritis and mama had Sjogren's syndrome and sister has lupus and auntie has Hashimoto's thyroiditis, all of which are autoimmune conditions, just the tendency for the body to develop antibodies towards itself is what was passed along. So how that manifests in the next person in the family can be individualized. So type 1 diabetes just could be one of those. So someone in the family can have type 1 diabetes, but they really can have any autoimmune condition, and it come or is manifest in you as type 1 diabetes. In type 1 diabetes, the immune system develops antibodies against the pancreas. And Danae, we can't talk to you right now. We love you though. So the body develops antibodies against the pancreas, and your immune system consistently attacks the pancreas, and that's what makes type 1 diabetes very different. Sometimes there's insulin resistance in type 1 diabetes. We call that like type 1.5, but that's not always the case. The most important thing there is to replace the insulin. In type 2 diabetes, there's lots of different reasons why the blood sugar goes high. We sometimes think that we can cure type 2 diabetes because we can just lose weight and then the diabetes goes away. That's actually not the case. When you lose weight, more often than not, you're losing resistance. So even though the pancreas isn't working at 100%, because there's less of you, you may not need all that insulin that your pancreas, would create. You may be able to survive without medicine or keep the blood sugar under control without medicine, even if the pancreas isn't working at 100%. I like examples, right? Because these examples and metaphors.
We have a story coming too.
Yeah. We have a story.
We do.
Yeah. I said that I was going to keep it general because lots of people, see this. And this is a good time to put that story in. Let me start with this little metaphor here. Let's say I'm on my bike and I'm going. Yeah, I'm on the bike and I'm going.
Pieces of chocolate cake.
Oh my gosh. So I'm on
biker.
the bike and I'm going. And then I start to go up this mountain and I'm going. And then I start to slow down a little bit. And eventually I got to get off my bike and I'm walking my bike. And then I just have to stop, take me a drink, something, just some water, sit down, rest, recuperate. Now, I can get back on the bike and I can try to go further, or I'm just going to decide to not take this road tomorrow. I'm going to get on a straightaway. So I'm on a straightaway and I can just keep going. I'm going to drink as I'm going. Mm-hmm. I didn't fix my bike. I didn't take that 5-hour energy. I didn't do anything extra. I just moved the mountain. I just took the mountain out. So that's what insulin resistance is. It's kind of like a mountain. It's like that extra traction. So even though my bike is not different and my body isn't different, but I move that mountain out of the way, I can just keep going. I may go a little slower, I may, pick up the speed and, and slow down sometimes to conserve energy. But again, nothing is done to me or my bike. And that's the way I want you to think about losing weight in type 2 diabetes. Okay. It's like moving the mountain out of the way. It's moving the resistance out of the way. So if the pancreas is you and the bike, you're going to have all your insulin making power that you're going to have. Once you start losing insulin making power, then you just lose the insulin making power. You can't get that back. So when we give medications and go to manage your diabetes, what we try and do is to help the body to do the best it can with what it has. We try to help the body need less insulin because you're making less insulin. Okay.
To balance it out.
Okay. So this is my story. So I have a patient. Several patients go this way. Okay. So it's kind of non-specific. Got a patient and sugar is, whatever. Don't take the sugar. So they're just kind of going through their activities of daily living in Florida, urinating and thirsty, but because it's Florida, tired sometimes, work outside, sunshine or whatever. Then one day we just kind of fall out. And go to the hospital. Sugar's like 600. Yeah, 600. A1C is like 12, 13. And they come out on insulin. So the person is like, oh my gosh, I have diabetes and I'm going to be on insulin for the rest of my life. And they're in a state of depression. They're in a state of denial. And then they come to the healthcare provider, and a good healthcare provider. Slowly they come off insulin. They take on other medications, but with weight loss and pills and checking the sugar now on their own. Their sugars are now in the nice 100 range. So they say, well, haven't I been cured? Okay. What happened? I don't have diabetes anymore. I mean, can I just come off everything? That's a very common story. That's a very common story. So what happened to this person is that their blood sugar at the time of diagnosis was about 600 or so. But diabetes is often present about 5 to 10 years before. That's that almost pregnant time. That's that pre-diabetic time. This is the time when the sugar is going up. The pancreas is trying to work overtime to compensate, but also that the body's just acclimating to having, your body's just getting used to having high blood sugar. So thirst, hunger, fatigue, you just keep going. That doesn't really mean anything to the patient. They just keep going. By resting the pancreas with insulin, okay, remember the patient went to the hospital and they got insulin? By resting the pancreas with insulin, the pancreas was allowed to kick back in, okay? The sugar can get so high sometimes that the pancreas starts to act like a deer in your headlights. You know the deer can see, you know the deer can run. Why is it sitting there waiting to be hit by your car? Okay, it's just in a state of shock. So in those cases, insulin is done to rest the pancreas. And when the pancreas can kick back in, as we put pills on board, we're again lowering the body's need for insulin, so that whatever remaining insulin making power is in that patient, it becomes sufficient to meet the body's needs.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so sometimes people feel that if they're taking their medicines and then their blood sugar is normal, why are they on the medicines? Well, it's because we're not treating an infection. Okay, diabetes is a chronic disease that has no cure. Once you start running low on beta cells, our priority should be to keep those beta cells or insulin making cells for you, because once you lose them, you can't get any more. So we want to keep what you have, exactly, and help your body to do good with what it has. Goals for diabetes management. Sometimes, patients want to say, I want to be at 7% my A1C, and I want my sugars to always be under 150 and blah, 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 blah. Well, if your sugar's 600 today, you can't be that way tomorrow. We want to emphasize that goals for blood sugar management really should be done by a patient and their healthcare provider. You can have low blood sugar symptoms when your blood sugar's in a high range, because simply the body just gets used to what it's used to. If your sugar's 600 and you feel fine at 600, you can't be 100 tomorrow and still function fine. You can have a 600 blood sugar today and a 200 blood sugar tomorrow and have low blood sugar symptoms because your body isn't accustomed to operating in that lower range. That's still high blood sugar, but that is low blood sugar that still needs to be treated because the body has to just get used to having normal blood sugars. So the target range for your blood sugar really does need to be set by you and your healthcare provider. But according to the American Diabetes Association, normal sugar for someone who has diabetes, or acceptable sugar for someone that has diabetes, is between 80 and 130 before a meal or fasting. That means not having anything to eat or drink containing sugar for about 6 to 8 hours. Okay. 2 hours after a meal, you want time for the sugar to come back down. We want to know that the pancreas is working. That number should be under 180. And that's according to the American Diabetes Association. The other standard bearer for people with diabetes is the American College of Endocrinology. Endocrinology is the area of specialty for people that have diabetes because insulin is a hormone, and insulin as a hormone is managed by the hormone doctor, and the endocrine system is your hormone system. So the American College of Endocrinology says that fasting or pre-meal numbers under 110 and 2 hours after a meal less than 140 can be a goal to shoot for if that is something that you and your healthcare provider deem is safe. Now, why is it really important to not be too low? Low blood sugar is much more dangerous than high blood sugar, and I'll tackle that a little bit more when we talk about diabetes complications.
All right, back after the break. Again, thank you all for tuning in to Let's Talk Business with SJC. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Shani Davis, and she's breaking it down diabetes type 1 and 2. And now the focus is on goal setting.
Goal setting, yes.
Back after the break.
Friday, December 27th at the Yingling Center. It's the concert of the year. It's R&B superstar.
Hey, this is Anthony Hamilton. Woke up this morning, found a letter.
It's the show the whole city's talking about. Anthony Hamilton. Joe, K. Michelle, Ja Rule, The Hamiltons, Chris and Kiana Benet. Don't wait, get your tickets now. Get them at all Ticketmaster outlets. Or charge 800-745-3000. It's the concert of the year. Friday night, December 27th at the Yingling Center. Be there.
Hi, this is Dale Day. Join me every Monday at 7 p.m. for Jazz at Miss Connie's house, bringing you the smoothest jazz and the coolest guests right here on In Touch Radio.
Been in a car crash? Call Ricky. Don't know what to do? Ask Ricky. We will connect you with a lawyer and doctor experienced in auto accident injuries. Call Ricky at 844-361-7425. After an auto accident, you have 14 days to seek medical attention. You may be in pain, so call Ricky, ask Ricky for your best options. 844-361-7425. Call Ricky, ask Ricky is a legal and medical referral service. The lawyers in our network pay to receive referrals.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecue? Come see them two brothers in the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
Are back. Again, welcome back to Let's Talk Business with SJC, the second Wednesday of the month. I'm here with Dr. Shani Davis. Thank you to our Facebook family. You all are so committed to listening to the show, taking your lunch break with us. But she's got to finish with the goals, and then we've got one more part, and before you know it, we are off the air. I'm turning it back over to Dr. Davis.
Hi there. Don't forget, if you have questions that are just, burning and you want to get them in on the show live, call us at 813-444-9588. We are in the midst of Diabetes Awareness Month, and I, before the segment, was sharing with you where should your blood sugar be if you have diabetes, what your goals should be in accord with the standard bearers. That's the American Diabetes Association and also the American College of Endocrinology. So if you have diabetes, also go to diabetes.org. That's the website to the Diabetes Association, and you can also get this information if you're not writing fast enough or if I'm speaking too fast. So
and we'll tag the resources as well.
And we'll tag these things. So the morning sugar or fasting sugar between 80 and 130, 2 hours after a meal, less than 180. And with the American College of Endocrinology, that was the ADA Diabetes Association, by the way, with the American College of Endocrinology, under 110 fasting or first thing in the morning, and 2 hours after a meal, less than 140. Remember, if your blood sugar control has been very, very high, you can have low blood sugar symptoms even in a higher blood sugar range, and it's very important to treat low blood sugar symptoms because low blood sugar is so much more dangerous than high blood sugar. You had a question.
I got a question.
Come on, DJ.
Listen, I'm in good shape. My weight is fine. Is there something that I need to look for? What symptom would there be if I had high blood sugar or low blood sugar? How would it affect me if I had it?
Wonderful question. Remember, we're at a disadvantage here in Florida because we're so able to explain away the excessive thirst, the excessive fatigue, excessive hunger, excessive urination just by, weather, the effect of sun on us. Those are all symptoms of higher blood sugar. By you being, not so overweight, actually in probably a normal weight range, you still have to consider those risk factors that are not modifiable. Your family history, your ethnicity, okay? Those are very, and your age. all those are important risk factors that we can't ignore. If you're over 45 and you're ethnic and you have it in your family, you really do need to be screened for blood sugar problems, because again, if the blood sugar is even like 180, you won't feel that. That doesn't feel any different from a normal blood sugar when you're at risk for type 2, because these changes happen slowly and your body acclimates to the way that feels.
So there's no getting dizzy or blurry eyes or...
Those were only a few of the risk factors that I mentioned, and I'm glad that you continued to the question here. Blurry vision is definitely a symptom of high blood sugar, but if you got blurry vision, you're generally in like way over 200, because the blood sugar in the blood is sugar in the wrong place. Sugar in the body needs to be inside your cells being burned up for energy. Okay, so if sugar or glucose is hanging around in the bloodstream, it affects everywhere that blood goes. And in your retina, the retina to the eye is what film used to be to a camera. They're very small blood vessels there to service the organ. It's a small and thin organ, but it's still an organ to keep it healthy. The sugar that's in the wrong place in the blood just kind of floats out in between the jelly and the eye. So as light comes through the pupil, which is a hole, it kind of gets stuck on those glucose particles, and by the time the image is reflected on the retina, it's blurred, it's distorted. If the sugar is high for long periods of time and the retina is unhealthy, you can also have lifting of the retina from the back of the eye, and that's actually projected to the patient as just floaters or black spots. So you can have vision changes. Other things that you can have that may suggest there's a blood sugar problem: frequent infections. If women are having lots of yeast infection, if you have a sore, particularly like on a lower extremity, that's having a real tough time healing, those are symptoms of higher blood sugars, because high blood sugar makes the walls of your blood vessels thick, and the products of your immune system have to get out to those tissues in order to make healing take place. So if you have thickened blood vessel walls because of the effects of blood sugar, then the healing is impaired. Many yeast infections in women, and actually even men, can have yeast infections in their groin area too.
So is there any symptom that men have that women don't have, and vice versa?
Not really. Balanitis is a yeast infection of the penile glands, the around the head of the penis. If you are uncircumcised, then it may be more profound than if you're not circumcised. High blood sugars can make that happen. In women, just frequent yeast infections that are in the groin, the perineum area. Also, if you're overweight, to have yeast in between the skin folds can also occur. Yeah.
So back to our goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
So once you find out what's normal, what's not normal, from there.
Okay, so you talk to your healthcare provider about where your goals are to be. The next thing is to definitely get educated, because you have to understand what the plan is of care, why you're taking the medicines that you're taking, and when to make an adjustment, if you should make an adjustment, what to report, so that you and your healthcare provider are on the same page. Diabetes management really can't be done at the primary care office, or even with your endocrinologist, or even with your diabetes educator. It's a team sport. You got to get the plays, the instruction to make good decisions on your own behalf when you're away from your healthcare provider. What you're reporting back is how this medicine, how this activity, how this food affected the blood sugar. Okay? And how often should you check your blood sugar? That's a great question. If you don't use insulin, the Diabetes Association says that it's discretionary for you and your healthcare provider. If you use insulin, then the recommendation is 3 times a day or more. Okay? The reason is because checking the sugar is not a punishment, by the way. Sometimes people just do it because it's what people with diabetes do. But what you're doing is validating your investment in your copays. Why are you taking this medicine? Is the medicine working? The blood sugar check is how you say so. That's how you find out. That's how you report. That's what you report to your healthcare provider. Did this work? Did this not work? Because ultimately the goal is to keep the blood sugar in range, correct? How do you know that's happening? That's the reason you check the blood sugar. What makes the blood sugar change? Food and activity. So if you get up first thing in the morning and you're checking your blood sugar all the time, and that's the only time you check your blood sugar, what are you really telling us?
Any test that you recommend to check your blood sugar, even if you're not diabetic and you just kind of want to check yourself?
Right. Get screened by your healthcare provider. They can screen with the annual blood test that you get like on a physical, because most people are fasting in that case, and if that sugar is more than 99 but less than 126, then that's an indicator for diabetes. If you're between 99 and 125, I'm sorry, well, 99 to 126, so that means 100 to 125, that's what pre-diabetes is. Remember, pretty means, you're there. You just hadn't met criteria.
So I've heard you, this is my last question, I promise.
Go ahead,
I've heard you
DJCO.
say that fasting, you've used that terminology throughout your spiel today. Is that something that we should be looking at doing on a consistent basis to help?
I use fasting, meaning no food and no drink for 6 to 8 hours. So when you sleep and you wake up in the morning, that's a fast. And when you eat that first meal, what is it called? Break. Fast. Okay. So that's just a general term. I'm not advocating fasting activities or as a way of life or as a form of therapy. We can save that for another show. But I'm just using that as a general term, meaning that you've not had anything to eat or drink for 6 to 8 hours. Okay.
So a patient comes into your office, and you diagnose the patients with diabetes, and there's a lot. You say it's a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot that individual has to do. And I know with technology, you can actually download little apps now.
Yep.
You can go in and check your blood sugar, and I come back to your office, and you can tell us how often we may need to come to your office. And I show you my app, and I've taken my blood sugar 3 times a day.
Yay.
And here's my data from the last 30 days.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, sure, or whomever that patient is, you're doing great.
I'm so proud of that patient when they bring that to me. Oh.
Okay, my question is that what you see? We as a people, are we chronologically keeping this data and presenting it to our healthcare providers?
Well, when we know better, we do better. Sometimes people feel that they check their blood sugars just out of habit, just because they have diabetes and that's what they just know to do. But if you are doing it with purpose, if you're checking with purpose, you want to bring that data in because your healthcare provider is asking you to pay more money for these copays.
And that's what I like.
I like my patients to hold me accountable. I've asked you to pay 3-4 different copays for 3-4 different ways of managing your diabetes, and sometimes they say, can't you just go up on my milligram on this one and cut some of this stuff out? And I like to explain to them because I'm also a diabetes educator. That's the CDE part on all the letters behind my name. In type 2 diabetes, the type that about 95% of people with diabetes has, there are about 8 different reasons that the blood sugar goes high. Okay, we got our liver dumping extra sugar in the bloodstream. The pancreas is not working enough with the beta cell action, is working too much with the alpha cell action. We have extra fat being broken down. The intestines aren't making enough of a sufficient hormone called GLP-1, and there are other hormones like our DPP that's too active, DPP-4 actually. There are receptors in our brain that are not being fulfilled by that gut hormone to tell us that we're full, so we're staying at the table too long, taking in extra calories. The reason that we're taking in all these extra calories is because the sugar's in the blood and not in the cell. Remember, the cell is like that gas tank in the car, and if your gas tank is on E, your indicator is going to tell you that you're hungry, that you need some fuel all the time. So a lot of people feel like that is a poor self-control thing, but that's actually a hormone deficiency issue. Sometimes then there's insulin resistance on board. So and also then there's the kidney. The kidney is sucking up extra sugar, trying to help you out and save you. And Right, and that actually pushes the sugar up as well. So now we have all these different medicines that when we used to have just a few, adding insulin, something to squeeze the pancreas a little bit more, we know so much more about why the sugar goes high and how it is a multifaceted syndrome affecting at least 8 different parts of our physiology. More medicines now are targeting these other areas, and we're able to control the blood sugar with less risk for lows and complications in that regard. So I think we got one more break.
This is
I
it.
hear our cue. This is it.
But hold on, what I did want to ask you, because you're talking about diabetes, you're talking about how it's affecting our culture and in our African American cultures and in many cultures. But we're getting ready this month, and families will be throwing down. And you're talking about a team sport. We'll be throwing down and watching sports. And so, what advice will you give to us as we prepare for that Thanksgiving dinner?
First of all, just good luck with that, because ethnic families just do Thanksgiving in a real special way. Plan ahead for Thanksgiving if you have diabetes. You want to, have a good breakfast, have a healthy breakfast with a lot of fiber in it, with extra water in it. Get you some lemon, some lime. Those things help to turn off those hunger signals. When you get to the Thanksgiving table, make a point to get some vegetables. I mean, stuff that grows, not like, macaroni as a vegetable or mashed potato as a vegetable. Try not to do so much starch. Try to get your vegetables in. Take a walk after Thanksgiving. Take a walk before the game, Get out and play tag with the kids. Implement some activity in there, and make sure that you are still taking your medicine. If you're confused about what you need to take or if you need to skip something, call your healthcare provider and have them also, plan with you to get your Thanksgiving schedule and plate together ahead of time. So planning is everything.
Right. Well, the key word today is going to be plan. So let's talk business with SJC and Dr. Shani Davis. She's given us a lot of information on diabetes, the types of diabetes. She's given us the symptoms. She talked to us about stages and what we need to do. Set that goal plan. So plan is the thing. We will post, you'll get to see the show in its entirety. For those of you that missed the show, for those of you that are on, thank you so much. We didn't get to give you all the shout out. Anytime you want to ask Dr. Shani Davis a question, tell them where to call. And with that note, we are getting ready to sign off.
Yes, you can always find me at Your Best You Personalized Primary and Diabetes Specialty Care at 813-936-2609. On Facebook, Your Best You Clinic. You can also find us online at ybykclinic.com or yourbestyouclinic.com. I just love what it is that we do, and we we'll love to have you to call in and give us your questions, and maybe we can do a recap.
Call the doctor. The show is a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Happy Diabetes Awareness Month.